Hello everybody. So, welcome to So Hot's Live. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tag in Sarah Ashford. Let's see if we can find her. Hi folks. Now, here comes Sarah. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for
seen
having
it?
me.
Pardon?
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Look at your lovely background behind you.
Oh, yes, this is my studio. So this is where it all happens in here.
Where the magic happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see you've got a quilt with my fabrics behind you. That's so cool.
It's my little girl's quilt that she has on her bed at bedtime. So I've just whipped it out of her bedroom and thought I'm definitely putting that up so that you can see it.
Oh, that's lovely.
It was an absolutely beautiful collection to work with. I really, really enjoyed it. Really, not necessarily my favourite, not necessarily the fabrics that I would have chosen myself, but when they're all put together, they just look so like starburst. They're brilliant.
Yes. Yes. Well, I never really intended for them to be used necessarily all together. They are designed to be like blender prints to go with anything in your stash, really. But so many people have put them together. Yeah, it looks great. What pattern is that then?
Can't remember.
No.
It might come to me. I might be able to remember. But it's I'll let you know. I can't actually remember. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's really good though.
So today we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about kind of the kit that you're doing with us and collaborating with us and the kind of things that that you've put together for us. And we wanted to have a little chat about wanted to have a chat and go through some of the questions that we had on the designer newsletter, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
What the first one that I really love asking people is, who taught you to sew?
Well, I think back in the very early days, it was my mum. And then I did a lot of cross stitch when I was a little girl, and then when I was a teenager as well. And this was back in the time where nobody did cross stitch apart from maybe old grannies. And I just loved it. And I just used to sit in my bedroom, you know, doing it myself. Nobody was helping me. I just kind of figured it out. And then we did do textiles at school. So I got into it then. And I did GCSE textiles a long time ago now.
You're quite lucky to have done textiles at school. I'm not sure it's always an option these days.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is actually. I think it was quite a lucky thing.
Yeah.
It does seem to have died out, which is, you know, such a shame because it's such a great skills to learn, practical skills, but it's, you know, a great opportunity to be creative. I mean, I don't think I did any quilting, but I did find one of my old projects, and it was an applique cushion with William Morris fabric, and I had used a motif taken from some William Morris wallpaper, and that's when I was about 15, 16 years old. And then I had actually quilted the back of it. I mean, I didn't back then even really know what quilting was, but you know, that was one of the first projects that really comes to mind. And then I just sort of taught myself really, and then I read a lot of blogs, and my friend's mum was doing a City and Guilds in patchwork and quilting, and I used to go to her house and see her beautiful quilts and the projects that she was working on the blocks. And I think we did some little sessions with her. We did like marble painting and that sort of thing. And I thought one day I want to do this. And that was when I was at university, going down a different path. And then I did actually start doing a City and Guilds from home. Again, back in the days when distance learning wasn't really a thing in the way that it is now. And I did that for a number of years while my children were small. And although I didn't finish it, it gave me such a good grounding and foundation. And I learned so many skills and techniques, sort of quite advanced techniques. And to be honest, I don't even use a lot now, but it was a really good sort of starting point and foundation for then moving forward. So yeah, I've always sewn, always been creative, and I just discovered quilting and decided sort of 12 years ago when I made the first quilt for my daughter, I want to go all in with this. I want to learn as much as possible about quilting, and here I am today.
Gorgeous. What's interesting is I wonder if sort of with the drive now on keeping our mental health well and, you know, looking after ourselves, whether things like textiles will come back into schools. It'd be really lovely if they did, just because it encourages us to have something to fall back on. I mean, I remember doing cross stitch, Forever Friends cross stitches,
yes,
in my bedroom as a kid, and you just have those foundations. And I worry sometimes that kids today aren't going to have those foundations to be able to work on.
Yeah, and I think in the curriculum in schools, the curriculum's so packed that things like the arts and crafts quite often get sidelined. And I used to be a primary school teacher, and I felt very frustrated that there wasn't more time devoted to exploring children's creativity. And because I've always loved sewing, and as a teacher back then we had to offer extra curricular activities after school. So I've taught quite a lot of cross stitch in schools where I was teaching, and then my own children have been at school, and I've gone in sort of as a parent and taught. I've done cross stitch club. 1 year I went in and I managed to round up some mum volunteers, and we made like we did a big patchwork with sort of big cantha stitches on it, and then I sewed it all together, and that was hung on the wall for display. And that was a really nice collaborative project. But it really takes sort of somebody who is creative to drive those things to happen so often sometimes.
Because I think if you're not, then when you've got a line of 20 children who all say that they can't thread their needle, you need to have that be able to power through and go, no, it will be really good when you've threaded your needle. It'll be really fun.
Yes, and the thing is, it's not instant gratification. It's not like playing a computer game. You know, doing an embroidery or a cross stitch or something by hand does take time. But the cross stitch clubs that I used to run sort of every week, so they would start, and then 6 weeks later they would have finished 1 or 2 little projects. The children, they loved it. They really got into it, and they really got into the zone. And of course there was some threads that needed untangling and needles that needed threading, but I just rounded up a couple of mum volunteers who were quite happy to be part of those groups, and it was a really lovely thing to do. And I think it's just a really nice way, like you say, to sort of slow down, and it's mindful, and it does help you sort of settle down and feel that sense of calmness. And I think that's what children need sometimes after a full-on day at school, and for us adults as well, you know, doing a little bit of stitching in the evening is really calming.
So did the cross stitch, I'm just thinking of the way that you kind of approach a cross stitch. You've got your grid with all of the dots on and everything. Did that lead into you designing quilts and that kind of theory behind it of what colours go well together and how you're going to cut up the blocks and all of that kind of thing? Do you think that fed into it?
Oh, definitely. So I have actually made a quilt that was designed based on a cross stitch pattern. It was quite a few years ago now. It's a Hello Kitty cross stitch that I turned into a quilt pattern for me. I made it for my daughter, and so that was I saw it as a cross stitch, and that was a lot of, I think it was something like 550 squares. It was a lot of piecing, but that was an inspiration for the quilt, and pixel quilts are very popular. So to me it made complete sense to turn a cross stitch pattern into a quilt.
They're so similar, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And so I think I've always, you know, enjoyed putting different colors together and playing around with design and things like that. And I think those early days of cross stitch were a good place to start, really.
And how do you go about the process of designing a quilt? When you're designing a pattern, do you make a block, note down what you've done, or how does your brain work to get it from an idea that you've got in your head to actually being in the shops?
Yeah, well, it all depends really. Sometimes I just have an idea and think, how can I make this work? So I don't know if you've seen my hot air balloon quilt, up and away quilt. Well, I just had this idea that I wanted to make a foundation piece hot air balloon, and had a look on the internet, and I could see that there were some around, but they weren't how I had visioned them. And so I sort of had a play around on the computer and managed to make that work, and that was before I had proper software to help me do it. So I'm quite proud of that quilt, because sort of back in the early days when I just sort of gone into the designing, and sometimes I'm very lucky, I get given quite a lot of fabric to have a play with, so sometimes the fabric is the driver, and I think, oh, what can I do with this, how can I make this collection shine? And other times it's a technique that I want to experiment with and I want to play with. So it could be some Dresden plates, or it might be some sort of hand quilting, or it could be a star block or something like that, or maybe it's negative space. So it just really depends, and sometimes ideas just come to me as well. So yeah.
And do you sketch it out first? Would you do a drawing, or do you do it all on the computer?
Sometimes I will sketch it out, because I can sketch it faster than I can design on the computer. So a bit of both, really. I use the notes in my phone a lot, so if I'm out and about and I have an idea, then I'll just put it in my notes. There's a facility on there where you can do a little sketch, so I might just quickly sketch on there and then type in some notes just to prompt me so that I don't forget that idea. So I find that really handy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's a good way of saving those things that you see on the spot and you think, oh God, yeah, that would make a great quilt. And
yeah, that's it. And sometimes if you don't write it down, then you just forget, and then that idea's gone. Yeah, and I go through my notes on my phone and I think, oh, I remember that idea. Yes, I know what that is. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip, actually, is to use the notes on your phone to jot down those ideas and take those photos when the ideas come to you, so you've got them to refer back to.
Do you remember sort of favourite designers and people that you would have used initially when you were first starting out in your journey with quilting? Because I think it takes a little bit of time to find your feet and find kind of your style, but I always think it's interesting to find out where people sort of started off. I mean, I know I started off with probably way more novelty fabrics than I ever would use these days.
Yes.
And just those prints that you look back and you think, oh God, I'm not sure that I even like that anymore.
Yeah, I do think tastes definitely change and adapt over the years. And I was the same. I did use a lot of novelty prints, and because I had young children, so I was making baby quilts. So I did that quite a lot. I think perhaps less so now. But one of my initial inspirations was when somebody gifted me a book called Material Obsession 1 and 2 by Sarah Filkey and Kathy Doughty. And I saw the quilts in those books, and I just thought, wow, these quilts are like nothing I've ever seen. They are amazing, and I want to make them all, and I want to make quilts in this style, and I want to hand quilt, and I want to put all the colors together like they do in their quilts. So I've been a long-standing fan of both of those ladies who have gone their separate ways now and have quite distinctive styles, but I really admire their their talent. They're very talented ladies in different ways.
I think it's that feeling of you can't ever find a quilt that you can buy that's going to be as lovely as the one that you would ever make. It's just not possible. You're not going to find one that absolutely suits what you need it for, and the colours that you like and the design that you like. And that's part of the joy of choosing the fabrics and putting them together. And you're putting them together and you've got no rotary cutter, you're using scissors, and in just taking that journey, it's a really lovely thing.
Yes, and that was definitely me. I did use scissors to cut out my first quilt. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I don't think it matters. I think that's just a starting point, isn't it? And you make your first quilt and it's not the best, but it kind of, well, for me anyway, it set a fire in me thinking, oh, I love this. I want to learn more. And that's when you then sort of start making the investment and buying your rotary cutters and your mats and your ruler and your different rulers. And I've actually written a second book, I don't know if you saw, called Rotary Cutting Basics.
It looks incredible.
And it's, yeah, thank you. And it's coming out in December, I think. And that is for beginners, telling them exactly what they need and what they don't need, because there are so many things out there that we don't actually need.
Yeah,
there's things that are that you do need, and then there's other things that I say are nice to have.
Yeah.
So,
just I think it's really useful, because if you've got that situation where you've got a kit book where you can have a look through and see what it is that you need to be able to make that quilt, because when you have that feeling of I want to make one, it's so fast and you just want to make it and get it and have it. That to know which bits of equipment and things you need is really, really important. And like on the front cover of yours, you've got different size rotary cutters and things. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so for a long time I just assumed that there was like the 45mm rotary cutter and that was about it. And then I discovered the 28mm, which is the much smaller one. I've got one here, I'll show you. So for people who've not seen it, so this is the smaller rotary cutter, and it's actually brilliant, and I use this all the time because you just get a little bit more control with it, a bit more accuracy, and if you can be more controlled and more accurate, you're going to be safer, so you're less likely gonna slip up and cut your fingers. So I use this all the time for my little blocks, little pieces, little squares. Definitely recommend that. You can get another smaller one again.
Really?
Yeah, it goes
like a Sylvanian family.
Yeah. Yes, it's the 18mm. It's tiny, so that has its place as well. I mean, some people do sort of teeny tiny piecing. I have done it before, but I haven't quite got the patience, I don't think, for such tiny piecing. But that's when that really small rotary cutter would come into play. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the really big 60mm chunky rotary cutter, which is great particularly for dressmakers who might be using thicker fabrics and different textured fabrics, and also for us quilters, if we're cutting multiple layers of fabric, then you do want to have a strong, sturdy, sharp blade. That's the other key. It's really important.
And there's always that kind of moment where it dawns on you, why didn't I change the blade earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having a sharp blade is the key. And then you can also get ergonomic rotary cutters. So if you've got sort of wrist issues or mobility issues, then they can help you. And then you can get cutters with perforated blades, so they do like a nice zigzag, or you can get like a wavy line one. So there's a whole host of, a whole spectrum of rotary cutters out there, and it's about choosing the one that's going to be the right for the job.
And remembering for people who are left-handed that you can swap the blades over and you can have them on the other side and that kind of thing.
That's
so
right.
There's ways of making them work better for you.
Yes.
It's just useful. It's such basic advice, but it's just brilliant. If somebody had sat me down and told me that, I would probably have more in my range than just the 45mm one that I do use.
Yes, my friend Sarah's just commented. She said, I've got the 18mm, which is great for curves and small pieces.
Yeah.
And she's right. The smaller the blade, you do get more control if you are doing a curve or improv, for example. So thanks, Sarah. You're absolutely right.
So who are your favourite sort of fabric designers, quilt designers, that kind of area? Who's your favourite? Top two?
Oh gosh, well, I love all the Ruby Star. Or everything they bring out. I just love it all. And then I am also currently loving Sally Kelly. She's a British designer. So she used to design for Liberty, and now she designs for Wyndham Fabrics. And she has she's had the Solstice collection out, which I have used for a quilt I made for the Great British Quilter. Oh, we have a little visitor. Hello.
Hi, Fred.
We're talking about quilts. It's very boring.
It's okay. We're talking about quilts, not Lego. You go find Maggie. Bye-bye. He's at the point where he's very, very affectionate, which is really lovely. I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you were saying.
I've forgotten what I was saying there. What was
it Sally Kelly?
Oh, Sally Kelly, yes. So the solstice, yeah, her solstice collection was lovely, and I designed a quilt under the Great British Quilter banner for that, to sort of champion British quilting. And the Paradiso, actually, so her Paradiso collection is in the shops now, and I have some because I made one of my notebook clutches with it, and this is the
Paradiso. Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah, so that's from her, so I love her fabric. And then she's just released a new collection called Eden, and she sent me some of that as well to play with. That's not out till next year, and I made a little coin purse with the Eden. So Sally Kelly is one of my favorite British designers.
It's just really, really vibrant, isn't it?
Yeah,
really vibrant and really strong, almost like those Kay Facet kind of colours, and the colour saturation is really, really strong. It's really beautiful, and you get great results from it. So the one that you've made there, that's one of our kits, isn't it? But in a different fabric.
Yes, so this is the one I made for you.
Brilliant.
So this is the Love Improv, no it's not, excuse me, it's the notebook clutch and pen case. So it's got a little pen case that attaches to it, and you sell the hardware, don't you? So it's quite sweet because you can take your pen case off and then pop it inside, or just take it with you. And then it's quite a nice size. I've got like a whole notebook in there. So that's the one that you've kitted up in the Essex linen.
It's solid. Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? Go and get an apple. Go on. Go and have another one. Come on. I'm really hungry.
Can I have 1 hour apples?
Okay, go and ask Maggie.
Where is Maggie?
In my bed. The kit looks amazing, doesn't it? Are you really pleased with it?
Yeah, I'm pleased with how it came out. I think it's a really nice project. This is the original one, and it's got the. I think these are in the kit, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
The little handmade sort of motif there, and then the hardware's in the kit as well. And I just love a bit of hardware. It's really nice. And I think we can just finish it.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And just to be able to clip them together in your handbag and have them all together and know that they're all together is really, really useful.
Yes. And the zips, I think you're stocking the zips as well, I got from you. And these are nice chunky zips.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they make them look really smart.
So smart, aren't they?
Yeah.
So gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
So what can you fit in the pouch? Can you get an iPad in those?
I think you can get I think you probably
an iPad mini you could get in there.
Yeah, definitely the mini or a Kindle. This is the notebook. That's got ample room. That fits in really easily. I've got a little mini cutting mat here. That fits in no problem.
Now that's a good idea, isn't it? You could put a rotary cutter in the little pencil case.
Yeah, you could put your little mini one in there. And then you've got the pencil case, which you can pop inside as well. And then off you go.
Brilliant. So the kit's available on our website at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's just one colour swap, I think, between them. We didn't have the pink Essex linen in, so they've swapped it for the flame. But it's proving to be really, really popular, and people are really enjoying making it. I can't wait to see some of them pop up on Instagram and for us to have a look at what people have made.
Yes. I've seen some, a lady tested it for me, a lady called Rebecca, and she used some Tula pink fabric, and that was really fun as well. And she sort of fussy cut some of the squares, so that was really fun.
Brilliant. I think the other thing with it is it's the kind of thing that once you've made one, then it's going to be quite tricky to not make more and more.
I've got 3 so far. I've got more lined up, and I think that's the nice thing about it. They're all so different.
Yeah.
And I'm making one as a present for a friend, and so I'm thinking now about what colours she would like, and I probably won't do patchwork. I'm going to do something different. And so you don't have to do the squares. This is just a starting point, really.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of go off and unleash your creativity. That's why I did the hexagon one here. So that was quite fun. Just using the hexagons, and I've got.
They're really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, you can really personalise them and customise them for your friends.
And I think if you're giving somebody a book or something for Christmas, it'd be really nice to have those inside.
Yes,
and use
definitely.
it as a wrapping for them.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea.
So I've put the link to the kit in our latest Instagram post, and just wanted to say thank you very much for having a chat with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. That's been really fun.
I think once we get some of the kits being made, we'll make sure that we share them.
Yeah,
great. And get them across to everybody so that you can have a look at them. And thank you to everybody who's joined us. I'm going to go and feed that small child. Honestly, the summer holidays.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.